Hi, good morning. How are you doing? I hope you are doing well and free from COVID 19. Yes, I hope that. Okay. And today we will continue our discussion regarding child and adolescent development. Okay. So last time we talked about the introduction to the child and development, and we discussed about the importance of child adolescent growth and development as well as the 13 theories of human development. So this time we will talk about principles and aspects of child um, or human development. Okay, so let's start. All right. So principles and aspects of development. All right. The first part of this is the principles of child or human development. Okay. First principles. Development proceeds from head downward. Okay, so this is called the cephalocodal principle. This principle describes the direction of growth and development head to toe. All right, so according to this principle, child development begins to develop from head to toe. Okay, according to this principle, the child gains control of the head first, then the arms and the legs. Application. These principles help teachers to know in what stage a particular aspect of growth that the children are in order to better understand them, especially their behavior. All right. So next is development proceeds from the center of the body outward. Okay. This is the principle of proximodistal development that also describes the direction of development. It implies that the spinal cord develops before outer parts of the body. The child's arm develop before the hands and the feet develop before the fingers and toes. All right, so the same as the first principles, their objective or their application is for us future teachers to know in what stage a particular aspect of growth the children are in order to better understand them, especially their behavior. All right, next one is development depends on maturation and learning. All right, let's define maturation. Maturation refers to the sequential characteristic of biological growth and development. The biological changes occur in sequential order and give children new abilities. Changes in the brain and nervous system accounts largely for maturation. For example, a 4-month-old cannot use language because the infant brain has not matured enough to allow the child to talk. Okay. Remember, in our first lesson, we talk about maturationist perspective or maturation theory. All right. And then according to that, um, the individual or the child tends to develop as long as they are healthy in every day in their lives, as long as they are going to mature. All right, so this time the same as these principles depend on maturation. So um the moment that the child become mature in age, they will acquire new skills and knowledge, and that's the time they develop. Okay, so like this example, a 4-month-old cannot use language because the infant brain. So if that is already a matured person, they can um, use language. Since we are talking about infant, right? So they cannot speak in that stage. Okay, so if they matured, they will. All right, so maturation, our development depends on maturation and learning. All right, so letter D, development proceeds from the simple or concrete to more complex, also known as principle of hierarchical integration, which states that those simple skills typically develop separately and independently but are later integrated into more complex skills. Children use their cognitive and language skills to reason and solve problems. So, application. Teacher must consider the maturity level of the student in asking them to do something. Forcing a student who is not mature may lead to personality disturbance. Okay, so we need to know our student if they already can do that specific task based on their level of maturity, right? Development proceeds from simple because they tend to do the skills or do the task in a simple way before they're going to do a complex one. Okay, so we need to be aware of that, that if we are going to plan the activity for them, we need to start as a simple before we're going to give them a complex activity. All right, so letter E, growth and development is a continuous process. As a child develops, he or she adds to the skills already acquired, and the new skills become the basis for further achievements and mastery of skills. Okay, so last time we talked about the lifespan perspectives, which is describes that the development is a continuous process from conception to death. As long as the person is alive, the probability to acquire a new knowledge and new skills is is present, right? So this time, if the child acquire a skills and they do it every time, they become that skill become a mastery. All right, they're master. All right, they will master that skill. Okay, so growth and development is a continuous process. All right, letter F. Growth and development proceed from the general to specific. In motor development, the infant will be able to grasp an object with a whole hand before using only the thumb and forefinger. The infant's first motor movements are very generalized, undirected, and reflexive, waving arms or kicking before being able to reach or creep toward an object. Growth occurs from large muscle movements to more refined or smaller muscle movement, right? If we are going to observe the children, right, they able to hold an object by their hand before they're using their fingers, right? So that is the same, that is the explanation of these principles. So we need to aware of that as well. Okay, so before we're going to give a task that is need or require a specific task, we need to give them first a general or a general task. Okay. All right, letter G. There are individual rates of growth and development, also known as principle of independence of system. It asserts that each child is different and the rates at which individual children grow is different. Understanding this fact of individual differences in rates of development should cause us to be careful about using and relying on age and stage characteristics to describe or label children, right? Yes, every person is different from each other. So because they are different from each other, the level of their development is also different. If for a student A, that task is very easy, maybe for a student B, that task is difficult. All right, so we need to aware of that and avoid comparing those skills since they are different, right? We need to give more attention to those person that that skills is or that task is uneasy to them for them to do. All right, so in these principles we can be assured that no one will be behind, yes, in the class, since we understand that every individual has a different level of development. Okay, all right, letter H. Development is influenced by both heredity, nature, and environment, nurture. Okay, the process of heredity and environment are interdependent and complementary. Neither appears to be dominant. The child's genetic inheritance provides the basic foundation for many physical and personality attributes, but the influences of social, cultural, and familial variables or environment also contribute to the development. Yes, all right. We talked about last time about the biggest factor of um, environment. And as well as when we talk about the evolution theory, that describes that the development of a child depend on their genes or depends on the characteristic of their uh, parents, right? So nature and nurture or the environment has a factor in developing the child's, all right, our child's, okay. All right, and the last one for the principles is optimal tendency of development. The body tends to maintain a state of equilibrium called homeostasis, where the body tends to adapt the environment condition and strive to preserve constant internal environment despite changing condition, right? So this time they acquire a knowledge or skills, and they tend to preserve that in the level of equilibrium. They want to maintain that, and from that process, state of equilibrium, they become bored. Okay, so the goal or the for us future teachers to apply this principle, the student should be given a target or goal to be reached. All right, to sustain enthusiasm and interest. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the second part of this lesson, which is aspects of development. Right, the first one, physical development. It pertains to the changes in the body structures and functions over time. Physical growth and psychological change will be rapid during the first year and then steady until puberty. Okay, so when we talk about physical development, um, it describes or it tells us that every person that their physical must be developed. Actually, during a puberty stage, most of the teenager experience a physical development. For women, they experience menstruational cycle or menstruation, and many changes. And we will discuss that further in the next lesson. All right. So letter B, cognitive development, refers to the gradual and orderly changes in the individual's mental processes for simple to complex, sophisticated. Yes. So our mind as well become developed as we go along in the process. Okay. So if before we think in a simple way, but through the years, all right, we are going to think more complex. Okay, this is how the child will learn and develop thinking and language skills. Intellectual and cognitive development will be influenced by the environment in which a child lives and the experience they are. Yes, remember, when a child grow up in a squatter area, right? The thinking of them is different, right? They tend or they think, how can I escape, or how can I how can I escape this? How can I improve my life? Yes, they thinking ahead, and the tendency of developing their mental skills is um, very present in that stage. Letter C is psychosocial development. It refers to the changes in personal and interpersonal aspects of individuals such as motives, emotions, personality traits, and interpersonal skills. Emotional development is learning and developing the emotional change skills to live within a family and society. Social development is characterized by the dramatic change in the quantity and quality of social relationships. So, yes, social development, and we all know that as we grow up, we tend to become aware, or we tend to our children tend to become more engaged in social relationship, most especially when they are teenager. Okay, their emotional as well will develop. Okay, with regarding to give time to their friends, to their family, and other people around them. And the last one is behavioral development. It results from behavioral experimentation of children and adolescents as response to the development changes they go through. This experimentation results in risk taking, which is the normal part of adolescent development. Engaging in risk-taking behavior helps them shape their identities, try out new decision-making skills, developing realistic assessment of themselves, and gain peer acceptance and respect. Okay, so the behavioral development, they able to develop their behavior when they are engaged in risk-taking, trying new things, experimenting. Um, if I'm doing this, okay, so what would be, okay? So in that case, they develop their behavior, right? And also their helps them shape their identities, okay, by trying new things, by try out new decision making skills. Okay, all right, that's it for today. That is for this lesson. And then before we end, just to check our takeaway or knowledge. All right, knowledge check. Rest taking is a normal part of adolescent development. Is that true or false? Okay, next one. It is refers to a sequential characteristic of biological growth and development. Letter A, principle of independence of system. Letter B, proximodistal. And letter C, maturation. Letter D, cephalocodal principle. Okay? And number 3, Blanc states that those simple skills typically develop separately and independently but are later integrated into more complex skills. Okay, let's check if we got the correct answer. All right, so number 1 is true. Rest taking is a normal part of adolescent development, and maturation refers to a sequential characteristic of biological growth and development. And the principle of hierarchy hierarchical integration states that those simple skills typically develop separately and independently but are later integrated into more complex skills. Okay, I hope you learned something from this lesson, and then next time we will talk about physical development. All right, so I hope you will become, you will save for the rest of the day so that in the future you will see this lesson. All right, thank you and have a good day. Bye bye.